Welcome to the I-80 Club and another Saturday morning coffee show. Jack Mitchell in the gym this morning. I'm Josh Peterson. He's got his Diet Mountain Dew. Jack, good morning. How are you? Happy weekend.
I am just fine, in a little bit of a different setup. Hopefully we are set. No technical issues. I sound a little different. My apologies. This won't be, I'll sound even better, I think, during the afternoon show. So thanks for bearing with me, everyone. I am in Waukee, Iowa, the home of Price Sanford. That's the window over my shoulder. You can see where he had his great high school career at Waukee Northwest, and hopefully another big game today. So, yeah,
baby.
ready for a big Saturday.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Saturday is here. The Nebraska Ball Hour is the afternoon show that Jack is talking about. Him and Caleb Henry will get going. Gosh, Jack, that's not going to be that many hours from now. What are we looking at? About 3.5, 4 hours from now is when that show will start, because Nebraska plays in 90 minutes against Minnesota, the final game in this stretch before the Michigan game, and you guys will get going on the Nebraska Ball Hour after that one finishes up.
It'll be about 1:30.
1:30. Wow. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. What are you in Iowa for today?
I'll try and make the shortest possible story of it. My son and I pre-planned this quite a while ago, because we were going to come here, and we wanted this. We had this. My younger sister-in-law and brother-in-law, who we're very close. We spent a lot of time with. They live here in Waukee, and my son and I wanted to come, and since they live here right by the high school and they know Colin Rice's family and the Sanford's family, Johnny and I wanted to go to one of Colin Rice's high school games, since we come visit them anyway, and go wear all Husker stuff and like just be generally disruptive. Not disruptive,
about right.
Just cheer for one player and wear all red. That was our plan. They had school canceled yesterday, and this is one of those school districts that when they cancel school, they cancel everything. So there was no basketball game last night. But we had decided to come up later. We decided to come up anyway, because it's my wife's birthday. We celebrated my wife's birthday with her family.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah. So, and we had been up a few times before for some other family stuff. And so we were thinking about canceling it. And then the last minute we thought, sounds nice to go up and have a weekend here. So made some last minute adjustments, and as I typically do, and Josh can vouch for this, I don't do a good job thinking ahead. And I think it was about Thursday when I realized that, put together the fact that we were going here and I had these shows. And so thus the makeshift technical situation. But I think we'll be fine. Sounds like we're good. I'm glad that's working out. I got a new phone, and we'll improve it for the second show. And that's why we are, and my nephew, who's sleeping in the room over here. Hopefully, I don't wake him up. He's a pretty good high school hockey player here in Des Moines. So we're gonna watch some of his games. So variety of things. Kind of a last minute decision to do it. So, but we're here. We're ready to go and have some fun.
Well, we appreciate everybody joining us. This is the Saturday morning coffee show. If you are new to this is the I-80 Club. We would love to have you, at the very least, like and subscribe to the I-80 Club YouTube channel that you are watching on right now. And if you want more from us, Jack and I do bonus episodes midweek, each and every week. Patreon.com/I-80 Club. We have been leveling up over the last few months. We have a variety of new shows, including Unemployed with Mike Schaefer, which you were on yesterday with him.
Yes.
That goes live at noon. The Friday shows with you two is always hilarious, so you can go check that out. Some of it will be about the game that we're going to talk about in just a few minutes, which tips off in, again, under 90 minutes. But there's a lot of other fun stuff in there as well, including a blind rankings that was very enjoyable yesterday. So go check that out. Also, Volleyball State makes you did a good. Now, you said this was the first top or blind rankings to be perfect. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to mine on Wednesday. I felt pretty good. Mine was national champions since I believe the BCS era started, and I felt pretty good about the teams that I ended up having in there.
Yeah, I did hear yours. Yep. Okay. Well, we're the best at it. Sorry, BC.
Who knew that the broadcasters would do better than everybody else? So go check out those. Also, Volleyball State is back tomorrow. They've been off for a few weeks. They return tomorrow night at 7 o'clock for subscribers. You can get access to that, of course, right here on the I-80 Club YouTube channel. It will be available just for subscribers tomorrow night and available on Tuesday for everybody else. So if you want access to that, again, patreon.com/i80club. And I think that's it, Jack, of all of the things that we have going on. Big Ten Breakdown dropped yesterday. Ben previewed all the stuff going on in hoops this weekend, talked about the Indiana National Championship as well. Lots of stuff. We are doing many, many, many things. I can tell that you are sitting very uncomfortably, and it reminds me of when I did a show from Colorado during Thanksgiving of 2024, but 12 hours after Nebraska lost in heartbreaking fashion to Iowa, and I sat on the floor, much similar to how you are sitting right now. So hopefully the next 50 minutes treat your body okay.
I got it. I think I got my my seating good. Yeah, it was a combination of the right level for the camera, a place that's quiet from the dogs, and outlets. So I think I got as much as I can, and I'm fine. I'll be fine. And I might do some. There's a bench press right here. If I go off camera and you hear some clanging, I'm probably putting up about a couple plates. So
hey, you got to get your work in. You always got to get your work in, Jack. Always got to get your work in. We've been talking about the Frager injury now. You and I did it on Unsportsmanlike Conduct a little bit yesterday. You talked about it on the Nebraska Ball Hour after the game on what night was that? Wednesday night, Tuesday night?
Yes.
You talked about it a little bit with Schaefer yesterday. So, we have run the gamut of emotions of what has happened over the last week. The pod that you did with Caleb was very funny in that in the moment as it starts, you're like, this is the worst thing of my life. Very quickly, you remember, hey, there was an injury like this a couple years ago and everything ended up being okay. Thankfully, all the news comes out, starts, Schaefer had some good intel on his radio show on the next morning that it seemed like it was going to be fine. Fred Hoiberg says it's day to day. So certainly now, Jack, we are at the point where we know he will be returning. Don't know when. I think Illinois at the earliest, and maybe you save him for after that, depending on what happens, at least today, I would say. And then you go from there. So how are you viewing now this matchup as we have been, we've run the gamut of emotions and everything is going to be fine, but there's still a basketball game to be played, multiple games probably, before Frager returns?
Well, I think, first off, it definitely sounds like best case scenario.
Yes.
Maybe best case scenario plus, based on, like, if you'd asked me immediately after you saw him on the sideline and your mind's jumping to conclusions, day to day would have been, day to day wasn't even in my mind as a possibility at that point as I was speculating. So, and then to have it, and I know even saying Illinois is possible, that's still speculation, really. There could be some gamesmanship there too, from Fred, in terms of exactly how much information he's giving or not giving. He doesn't want teams to know, which I don't really blame him for that. And so, look, if he's back, even if he's not back until after Purdue, it doesn't derail the season. I think the only bummer of it is that the Michigan game, number one, and Purdue and Illinois, like, those are the three games that sort of are the difference between still being in the race for a 1 or a 2. And if you lose all three of those, that starts to get a little less likely, I think. I don't think it's out, but if you would lose all three of those, that's probably more of an uphill battle again, or you've got some ground to make up. If you were able to have some success with 1 or 2 wins out of those three, you really put yourself in a crazy good position. So I think, and I think they can function like today. I'm not, honestly, if they would lose today, I think we would not be saying, boy, if they had Frager. We'll see if I'm wrong about that. Yeah. But they've operated, as I kind of thought more about this. We talked about it on Saturday. I talked to you guys and I talked to Mike about it, and thinking about it, it almost seemed like just these last, really after that Ohio State game, Frager played a different role on the team than he did before. Like, he was a true sixth man, and had some runs and could kind of blow up in the beginning of the season. And then some of those games in the beginning of the season, didn't contribute a lot. It was just that what he had done since the end of the Ohio State game, Oregon, Northwestern, like, it almost seemed like that took this team to somehow a new step that they didn't have before. And so that was exciting, but they're built in a way that a couple of guys have an off night, or I guess a guy doesn't play, they still are equipped to handle that. So I'm not panicking about today. I just think if they're going to beat Michigan, having watched Michigan last night, they've got to have their A game, their complete A game.
Yeah, so a couple things. You just said something that I wanted to hit on next, and that was what you brought up with Schaefer yesterday, and that is that this team has leveled up over the last couple of weeks, and a large part of that was Frager. And like, how do you level up from being undefeated? You level up by just beating everybody by even more points, by being more impressive, by having a comeback win against Indiana, right? And so like he was helping them and allowing them to do that. The other thing is, if this was going to happen, you obviously would have wanted it to be 3 games ago, because you figure in this stretch, especially now knowing in hindsight what we do, they would have been able to take care of Northwestern. They would have been able to take care of Oregon. They would have been able to take care of, who am I forgetting? There's one other blowout in there.
Northwestern Washington.
Washington, and then there was one. Oh, and then Minnesota today. It's like, man, could you just move it up a little bit, because this stretch, and I mean, I'm with D-Lo, maybe just me, but the Michigan game was, what is that, 100,000% gravy. It is. I just want to know where they stand. And like, this is going to be the stretch truly. Where, it's 4 games, and the only one in there that is a quote unquote patsy is Rutgers, and it's Michigan, of course, it's Illinois, and it's Purdue. And so like, look, I think you're going to see him on the back end of that. I think you'll see him back for Purdue, but God, it just would be really fun to see him for all of them. Just again, because they'd have their best chance to win. But also, I think this stretch is really going to teach us a lot about, and maybe this is ridiculous to even say it, Jack, their 19-0 start has taught us how good they are. But I was kind of really curious, like, are they on that 1 seed line? Are they on that 2 seed line? Are they going to start dropping off a little bit? I don't know if we're going to get a full answer now, just given that he's going to miss the next 2. And there's a part of me, Jack, that thinks you leave him out for the Illinois game and you get him closer to 100%, and then you bring him back for everything else that comes after that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The Michigan game is technically gravy, but like, obviously, there's the part of a fan right now that's watched this team and is being like, man, well, what if? We thought they didn't have a chance before, and just the fun world that we've talked about many times that we would live in, which is already an unbelievably fun world, but to even level it up again, if they would beat Michigan, and I mean, man, you think things are crazy about what people are saying in Nebraska, if they had or could or still do go on and beat Michigan. But I think also to that point, I agree if it's 1 game, but if it is Michigan, Illinois, and Purdue, then and they are to some degree shorthanded for those games, that's a bigger deal. And again, this is still dealing with a new reality. But I think now I'm in a place, and I don't know where the rest of you guys are, but I'm in a place now that I really would love to see them. Like, if you're asking me what I really want, if I'm greedy, it's a top 2 seed. That's in the NCAA tournament. And yes,
for both selfish individual reasons and for the team reasons as well.
Yes, because I want them. I'll say it. I want them to be in Oklahoma City or St. Louis for a number of reasons. Yeah, because it's easier to get there. Yeah, because it's easier. It's going to be more likely that we bring our NCAA tournament tour. Oh, which, by the way, we were going to call it. We're calling it the I-80 Club Road Show, Dancing with the Huskers. And my daughter said, "Why don't you say Dancing with the Skurs? Because that sounds more like Dancing with the Stars." I was like, "That's amazing!
Oh, wow.
Of course we should have done that."
Shout out Nora.
So we might have to change that. She's a big Dancing with the Stars fan, but getting that 1 or 2 seed, like, of course, there's that part of it that you're closer. You're pretty much locked in. I think if you're a 1 or 2, you may still go there at a 3 or 4, but it's not as much of a sure thing. And then just like, again, getting a little greedy. Yeah, the first win is important, and obviously it'll be. I didn't even think of this, Josh. If they get a 1, they could play a play-in winner.
I didn't realize that until was at the conversation you were having with Schaefer yesterday, and it was like, Jesus Christ, like, that is crazy to think about.
They could be playing a play-in winner, and they'll just have a better chance winning 1 game. They'll have a better chance at winning 2 games. They'll have a better chance at winning 3 games. All of those things. So again, that is in the sort of new world wants, and those things. I think if he misses those 3 games are those are the biggest keys, right, for the rest of the year. Getting that
those are the 3 best opponents that they're going to play in the rest of the regular season, at least
UCLA.
according to all of the metrics. Yeah, they got Iowa a couple times.
Iowa, UCLA. But
Yeah.
those three are going to be the deciders if they're in that 1-2 area or the 3-4 area.
And Jack,
Most likely.
again, to go back to the selfish perspective, 2 of them are at home. So it's like you want to have your best foot forward against Illinois. That's next Sunday. That's a week from tomorrow. And then Purdue, which is a week and a half after that on a Tuesday night. Like those opponents I'm looking at Bart right now. Michigan 1, Illinois 6 or 5, Purdue 6.
Jeez.
And then the next best team after that is Iowa. They got them twice. They're 19th. And then you mentioned UCLA, they're 43rd. So it's like, it would be so nice to be full health. But look, of course, this is a conversation where we're looking ahead to March. And if you miss out on him, you're at 4th most important player, 3rd most important player, depending on the night. This is when you want to have that happen. And so it's way more important to get him back to full strength than it is anything else. Just selfishly, it's been such a fun ride. You want the ride to continue at its fullest strength.
No matter what, even if you miss 2 weeks or 3, even if you miss beyond Purdue by a couple of games, it does not take away any, I don't think, of the scenarios that we've dreamed of. It doesn't just do that. It just makes them a little less likely. So I wonder, Josh, and I've been meaning, and I haven't had time to do kind of a full audit of this. I think I talked to one of you guys about this, but it might have been you. We were looking at what the records of 1 and 2 seeds have been from Power Conference just over the last 5-10 years. I just wonder, I know there isn't a sure cutoff, but what generally has been the cutoff for losses to be a 2 seed?
I think I heard Happer and Schaefer talking about this on Thursday. And dude, the numbers, there were more losses than you would have expected in the 2-seed group. It was 5, 6, 7. It wasn't 2 or 3. So if you're oh my gosh, they're going to now lose to Michigan and Illinois and all hope is lost on a 2-seed. It's no. They lose those and lose maybe 2 more the rest of the year. They're still going to have a chance at a 1 seed.
Was there a scenario where they lost to Michigan, Purdue, Illinois, and I don't know, Iowa or UCLA, and they're still probably going to get a 2 seed, maybe a 1 seed? Is that
absolutely? Because they have the Michigan win in the back pocket, or Michigan State win in the back pocket. They already have the Illinois win in the back pocket. They already have other good.
And wins. Then the tournament would probably factor in a little bit more then too. So, yeah, I get this is why I suppose, and I guess I hadn't thought of this, that it's nice to be 18-0. Turns out
19-0. Don't short them a win.
It's nice to be 19-0 when you build up a massive win streak with no losses. There's a little bit of equity that you've already put into the season.
Yeah, and by the way, how about the fact that for weeks you were saying the only way that I will say that they're a 10 out of 10 on making it to the tournament is when they get to 20 wins. You're maybe it could happen by Valentine's Day. And then we joked about what if they're 20-0 going into Michigan? And now, Jack, we're about 4 hours away from you doing a post-game show with Caleb Henry talking about the 20-0 Nebraska basketball Cornhuskers and saying I've already seen from some of the bracketology people saying they're a lock. It would be a stunner if a team that is 19-0 wasn't a lock. But the fact that they could hit that number again before the conference championship games are played in the National Football League, they could be a lock for the NCAA tournament. I never thought we'd see the day. Never thought we'd see the day.
January 24th, right? That's the date today, January 24th.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yes, there have been so many times in this season where we've said, man, I don't want to go too far, but can you imagine? And starting with the most funny things now, right?
Yeah.
Could they win both games in Kansas City? Could they go through Creighton and Wisconsin and Michigan State or whatever that 3-game period was and get 2 out of 3? And every time we've done that, it's happened. And now we're basically doing that with finishing at this stretch out with the 4 games where they're going to be big favorites, winning by double digits in all of them. That was the last one that I did. I was like, well, that'd be amazing. I don't know if that's, really reasonable, but that'd be amazing. And then the next one's going to be beating Michigan on the road. I watched Michigan last night. They vary between that. I don't know how much you watch them, Josh, but they vary between watching them and being like, man, this team is absolute monster, which I have thought when I watch them. Yep. But then other times, or the first half last night, I was like, I don't know. If they're not shooting well, I'm not sure that they're unbeatable. So it's
Well, I'd say this.
I get different thoughts on them.
I don't want to say like a team is peaked because it's still January 24th and they're still, they're hoping Michigan is to play for another 2.5 months, right? They're hoping to play into April. But if you want to pick a little bit of nits, and I think it's fine, since the calendar turned to 26, they beat USC by 30 in their first game of the year on that Friday night that Nebraska beat Michigan State.
That's what
Since then, man, they had the 2-point win against Penn State, and we were doing a podcast that night, and it was like, wow, really? They're going down to the wire against Penn State. That's interesting. They had the loss to Wisconsin, and they have, they've won, but they have not looked as dominant as they were back in November when, look, everybody is holding on, and I will be holding on to it until the season comes to a close. That win that they had over Gonzaga, when they absolutely rocked them, and they won by 40, but at one point they were doubling them up like deep into the second half.
Crazy.
Like they haven't played that way. But I don't know. Are you that surprised that a team got into their conference schedule and things got a little bit more difficult? Like, I'm not, just because the teams are going to have better scouts on them, right? They're going to be more familiar with them.
They murdered someone else too, Auburn, a couple of other games in the non-con.
Yeah, they were rolling. Oh yeah.
Really impressive. And so I think those stick out. But yeah, they've in conference play. They've been obviously very, very good, but not quite to the level where you looked at those Gonzaga and Auburn and other scores and been like, oh my gosh, they may be far and away the best team in the country. And so, we'll see. I will say this, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but in that game, if Nebraska has a shot at it, Rienk Mast has to have the kind of game he's due for, where he really goes off again.
I'm happy you brought him up because he was the player that I wanted to talk about with you next. You said that on the show with Caleb on Tuesday night, Wednesday night, that Rienk it's been really interesting, and so I decided to look into his numbers during yesterday's Unsportsmanlike Conduct, and it's pretty interesting, man. You basically go to the Illinois game, and since then, the only time that he has hit 50% from the field were those two games last week when he didn't play very much, where he only had 14 total points, 37 combined minutes. But look at this. He went 2 of 4 against Oregon. He went 3 of 6 versus Northwestern. But, Jack, in all of the other games, and all but one of them since the Illinois game, he's had double-digit shot attempts, 46%, 33%, 40%, 35%. And think back to what you were saying at the beginning of the year and the challenges that he presented. It's what's happened, do you think? Is it the level of competition that he is now playing? You think that that's what it is? Because he definitely hasn't been as impactful. Whereas I think, Jack, going into the Illinois game, we would have said definitively he is the most valuable player. And I think that there's very much an argument to be made now that it's, that it's not him and he still is great, obviously, or he still is a very important piece. He just hasn't been as efficient as he was earlier on the season.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, the Illinois game was the first time I noticed it, where the guys he was going against, especially on defense, I was like, okay, this is a different level than the bigs that he faced against Oklahoma or Creighton or Kansas or any of those tough-ish, the better non-conference opponents. The Illinois guys were huge and good and rim protectors. And he loses a little bit of his game when he goes against guys like that. And he'll see that against Michigan too. He has that ability. He has that ability to be really creative, kind of I never know if this is okay to say, but he's got like that real European style of a big inside, where it's not necessarily power, but he's got kind of a big toolbox in making inside shots. The hook and the different ways that he's able to get shots up without being blocked. He's not been, because if he posted up one-on-one against most of the guys earlier in the year, he was going to score. He was going to find a score. And so that's the whole beauty of him, is then they would bring someone over to double after he did that a few times. And that's when he would pop it out and get Price or get Sam or get someone open for a 3-pointer. And that part of the offense hasn't been as much there. It has been in spurts, but that was, I think, the basis of their the Oklahoma success that they had, for instance. And then he was just hitting threes. The Michigan State game was about hitting threes, right? And he hasn't done that as high of a rate either. I agree with you, though. Listen, he is still he is still the most important player on the team in my mind. Like if you lost him for a period of a couple of weeks, that'd be a different story. But yes, I completely agree with the way you put it in terms of him not being as much, not being quite as like of an X factor. I called him a matchup nightmare all the whole beginning of the year. He still is to some degree, but not as much when these teams are getting bigger and more athletic defensively.
Let me ask you this, like, because I think another way to maybe describe this would be like if he is the sun in the early part of the year and all of the game rotates around him, like, is he still that, do you think, even though he maybe hasn't been as impactful on the offensive end? Or would you say that that's somebody else, because the obvious person to bring up next would be Price, and that maybe he has become that player, that the gravitational pull of him and what he's able to do from beyond the arc, though. Which game was it? Was it the last game, or was it the Northwestern game? Was it Washington Northwestern, where it's like, why is he open for so many threes? Like, what are they doing on the defensive end that is allowing him to get all of these like easy, clean looks? And so maybe as much as I think that he's the gravitational force, maybe the opponents are still viewing Rienk as that guy.
No, Price. It's interesting because if Illinois is the game where Rienk started to look a little different inside, it was also the game where Price really leveled things up in the first half when he made, what was it, 7 threes or 6 threes?
Yeah, he was on fire at the start of
that was when he became like a bona fide, oh man, we really got to worry about this guy. And like Frager, I think Price has gotten better during the course of the year too. I think he's a little bit more dynamic in terms of how he can score. I think he's up the game defensively. Like that was the thing with Price and Frager. It felt like they both have really improved. Not that they were disappointing at the beginning, but it's just the two of them seem so ridiculously lethal the last few games. And so yeah, I think you're right. He's the next one, and it might be to some degree reverse of what it was at the beginning of the year when Rienk was drawing the attention and using Price as the decoy or the second option. Some degree, maybe it starts looking in the other way where Price is going to start to get, because if he continues to make threes at the rate he is, I don't know, arbitrary endpoints, but like I've seen some numbers, what is it, last 4 or 5 games where he's at like 47%, a ridiculous number.
No, even higher. He is above 50% in the last 4 games from 3. He has made 19 3-pointers in the last 4 games combined. You're talking about 5 threes a game, essentially, including 7 against Oregon and 5 against Northwestern. And then he went 7 for 11 against the Ducks, and he went 57.1% against the Huskies on Wednesday. Like, dude, he scored 20+ points in each of the last 3 games. It's been ridiculous. In the Illinois game that you mentioned, he had 32, including 6 of 11 from deep. Like, ridiculous type stuff. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure. So that, again, it is still weird to think about now with this Frager injury, but they were looking like, between the progression of those two and what they were doing, it sounds weird. It sounds like a homer, but it felt like they were taking another step at 16, 17 and 0. Getting significantly improving what this team was able to do with the way those two were performing the last few weeks. So
yeah, Alex just posted
yeah, go ahead.
No, Alex just posted a great graphic inside of the Discord server, which is X and Y axis. And so the up and down is the open 3 rating percentage, and the left and right is the actual make percentage. And Nebraska is as far right as you can go, but they're essentially in the middle in terms of how open they are. And this is transition threes. And so like, they're not like wide open, and yet they're making it at the highest rate of anybody in the country. And Jack, I think this was something you and Caleb talked about on Tuesday night, and that is the ability for this team to make up for whether it's a comeback or to pull away from a team in such a short amount of time. Like all of us who have been watching this program for a while, and you go back even further than most of us do, like the patented Nebraska basketball, cold streak where they can't get a bucket for 6 minutes. And meanwhile, this team is like the patented 8-0 run over the course of 62 seconds, and then the opposition has to take a timeout. Like every time the Washington game got even a little bit interesting in the second half, as all of us are looking at our phones for any sort of information about Frager, suddenly it was like, oh, Asijan made a 3, Lawrence made a 3, and now they're back up by 17, and this game feels again like it's over.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things. The Indiana game's the best example of it. Of any of them is just to really go on that quick run, and then just to be able to stay kind of emotional and not get too down on themselves, which it is fascinating, man. Anytime you see a video of Fred Hoiberg in the locker room in a huddle, always it's to me it's such a fascinating coaching thing. He is always preparing them for the worst case scenario. He's always saying, I mean, his message is essentially, don't freak out. Things are going to go bad. Don't act like you don't know they're going to go bad, but they're going to stop going bad. And that's how they play. They play like, all right, 12-0 run for the other team or whatever it is. They're ahead, but eventually the law of averages kicks in with how we play, and that's how it feels like. In a full game, eventually what they're going to do is going to work, and it's always happened that way to this point.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, if they've been preparing for the worst case scenario and leveling up at every kind of question along the way with the opposition getting tougher, having to play road games or whatever it is, the comeback against Indiana, like, I don't know if I want to say this is their toughest test yet. We'll probably say that on Tuesday. But this is very much an interesting test where they'll be without Frager. There was a question in the YouTube chat, how long is Frager going to be out? I think the common assumption, and I think some of this is informed too, is that he is for sure out today. And then, though that's not official, I guess, but he will be out today. And I think the expectation, I think, from those who I have heard from is that he will then be out Michigan. And so Illinois is the game to watch if he is going to return. Personally, I think that they're going to hold him out for Illinois. I think he's going to miss 3 games, but that's going off of 24 to 48 hour old intel. But that's my guess on what they're going to do.
Might be, and I have no idea. I've heard a lot of people say the same thing, and I don't know how informed they are or not, but that for some reason seems to have settled at what people are thinking. We'll see what.
By the way, DW says he is officially out today. I missed that. Okay, so he is officially out today. So he's not playing today.
I wish I knew more about this, and I'm a little embarrassed I haven't. But has it been said that Oogie are they going to try and get a medical redshirt for him? Could he be an option in any of these scenarios? Is there a chance he'll play? Have you heard anything on that from Robin or anything, Josh?
No.
Because I don't know if I have, and maybe everybody has an assumption about that I'm not realizing. I assumed he's not playing, but this might be one scenario where you would have considered it if he was out for a long time and he was healthy and able to.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything from Robin on that note. By the way, one more thing. I don't know if you had anything else on the game today, but I did want to point to one player that I think everyone's expecting to get a few more minutes with Frager out, and that's Garcia. You know what's interesting, Jack? I'm looking at his game log. The one time this year that he scored double digits was that game that we keep bringing up, and that's the Illinois game a little over a month ago. That was easily his best game. He had some huge buckets in there. He's going to be asked He's going to be asked to play. He's going to be asked to make some shots. I mean, he's just in a real dry spell right now. He is. I think after that Illinois game, I was thinking, whoa. I think we all were with the whole team, but I thought with Garcia, it was like, ooh, look at this. They even have another guy, and that hasn't really been the case. I'm curious to see what he looks like in the coming 1 games, 2 games, 3 games.
I would love to see. Yeah, I thought the exact same thing. I was like, oh man, they've figured out how they can use him, and we didn't see that, at least offensively. Now, I will say he still quietly gets a lot of rebounds. I think if there's any positive trade-off for giving him more minutes and Price less, there might be a slight improvement in rebounding, offensive rebounding. Obviously, it's lost in a lot of other places, but it will be. If he gets more minutes, I wonder if there'll be any flashes of what we saw, because you're right. He had 2 plays that arguably were as important as anything in winning that Illinois game in the last 3 or 4 minutes of that game.
Yeah, for sure. And so he's going to be the guy to get the uptick in minutes today. So that game starts in less than an hour, which is crazy. And then you and Caleb will go on afterwards for the Nebraska ball hour. So we hope to see everybody right here. Turn on notifications. It starts 15 to 30 minutes after the game. With this being a road game, it'll just come down to how fast Caleb is able to knock out some of his writing stuff, but don't have to worry about arena and being loud and Seamus being triggered and texting you. So it's that's the best part about one of these road games.
For those who don't know, what we usually do is the three of us decide on a start time after the game's over. We kind of see what we all need to do, and then we will put that out there on the start time on YouTube and on Twitter. So that's where you can find it, or just subscribe, set alerts. That's the best way to do it.
Indeed. All right, Jack. Where do we go? Where do we go next? It's been got to adjust, get those legs nice and comfortable, man. I can tell the blood is pooling in various areas right now. Yeah.
This is better.
We got about 25 minutes left, so we'll try to get out of here as fast as possible so your legs are going to be okay. Where do we go next? It's been a quiet week on the Nebraska football front after everything was kind of hot and heavy. I guess the one thing that made a little bit of news was Troy Dannon speaking a couple nights ago, talking about first world problems, Jack. But Nebraska football spring game being played on the Elite Eight Saturday. And I've sensed, I think there is some spillover frustration with the football program that it has now fallen on Dannon. And why on earth are you scheduling the spring game on the day of the Elite Eight, you fool? You could take away the excitement and fandom and media, all these things, because the spring game is going to be that day. Again, the vibe surrounding Husker football and every part of it is just now so negative right now. I was just like scrolling through Sam McEwen's mentions when he sent out a quote from Dannon the other night. And it was just like, man, people are just pissed. They're not really happy with this team at this moment in time.
Yeah. And first of all, I don't think the spring game on the Elite Eight is that, from a fan perspective, it's not a big deal to me. The biggest cost for it, I think, if Nebraska basketball would get there, and that, trust me, that's still more than an if. But just for the purposes of the exercise, if that would happen, if this all, like the losing party in that whole thing, weirdly, is Nebraska football. No, I mean, the media's gonna pick basketball, I think. Don't you think? If they have a choice to be made, the fan base will, and it's not an either or unless you're traveling anyway. Like, it kind of sets up in a weird way, because I assume those games in the Elite Eight, because that's the Saturday of the Elite Eight, and that would be if it was actually a game where a day where Nebraska were in it. Nebraska played, I believe that's, what did we say yesterday, Josh? San Jose, and what was the other one that day? I can't remember. San Jose was one of the two. It's DC, Chicago, San Jose, and I'm forgetting the fourth.
Houston. So Houston. If they're playing on the Saturday, that would mean that they're in Houston or San Jose. If they're playing on the Sunday, it would mean Chicago or DC.
But those games for the Elite Eight are usually like 5 and 7 or 4 and 7.
The Saturday games are later, yeah. So like it would not get in. It wouldn't get in the way of it, yeah. At least in terms of like
that sounds like a fun. I mean, I would love if this happens. I'm there at the Elite Eight, but if I'm not, like, that sounds like kind of a fun day. That sounds like sort of tailgating for the basketball game. So, like, I don't know. I can't get my dander up about that too much.
Yeah, Connor says, I mean, we're tempting fate talking about this. I mean, talk about a conversation I never thought to have.
No, I know, but I've tried to do it the other way and never tempt fate, and everyone thinks I'm being too negative or not believing in it. So I'm allowing myself to at least explore the possibility with saying, it's not my expectation.
That the 19-0 Nebraska Cornhuskers could make it to the Elite Eight in a couple of months. I think that's okay.
I mean, at some point, at some point, it's okay to at least say it's possible. I don't know. It sounds fun. It sounds fun if you're home and in Lincoln, and just make it a whole day leading up to that huge moment, right? It's kind of like when there's a baseball game after the spring game, or that's not a good example, but like a smaller sporting event leading up to a bigger one to sort of get you in the mood. So I'm not. And the other thing is, like, there obviously is a reason. The whole reason this is happening is because Rhule wants to, or the university wants to, start spring practice significantly more early. I don't know if they're trying to stay away from spring break or what.
No, so oddly, I heard about this. Spring break will take place during spring practice, and so it will actually last a little bit longer than it should, because they will take that week off. And so, dude, they're starting in a few weeks. They're starting in February.
So
It's
what?
wild.
Yeah, well, and I know like some Southern schools in the past. I remember back in the day, College Football News used to put all the opening days of spring. They had this link, and I used to look at it, and I was always
Yeah.
shocked. There were teams that started on February 28th. Texas seems like they were one of them, and some other Southern teams that would do it. And I was always like, that's crazy. They're going to be done with spring practice before Nebraska starts.
Yeah, it makes
Basically,
me wonder if this is like there's been a lot of discussion about NFL calendars and OTAs coming to college football. Like is some of this that where they're going to have like a shorter winter conditioning, period on the front end, and do they have more of it on the back end? Like what is that? Cuz I mean, dude, and Dila says that the other factor, it could be cold for the spring game. Like it could be.
yeah.
And so you want to talk about I want to go back to a couple comments because D-Dub says, I think this will be the lightest attended spring game in decades either way. Weirdly, I think it's okay that there's no buzz for football. This program needs to just go in the bunker and figure it out, or at least try that instead of winning the offseason natty. It does present for a way different kind of offseason flow where most of the time, Jack, the spring game is mid to late April. And I think they had one of them where it was in May, which then it's like that happens. And then it's like a month, 2.5 months. And then it's go time with media days and stuff. This is way different. This is going to be pretty crazy. And so I wonder how that there has to be some sort of like a science reason behind why they're doing this, right? Like they're not starting on, I don't believe anything with the football stadium yet. They haven't even announced anything in that regard. It sounds like that's coming after next season. So okay. I'm pretty curious. Caleb says cold makes it easier to cancel the spring game and use that as an excuse. Could they be canceling the spring game on purpose?
I don't know. Yeah, that's the other thing. There's a bunch of components to this whole thing. Why are they going earlier in general? Because that, in the end, is why that Saturday is the day, because it just works with the calendar and the length of spring practice. But why did they want it to be earlier? And I don't even know that it's necessarily a bad thing at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just curious what the motivating factor for that is. The second thing is last year, there was all this talk about, hey, spring games aren't the future, right? Nobody's going to be doing these.
What happened?
Nobody's going to be doing these. And so that's just, was last year that bad of an experience? Is that why you're cheering it? Are you making these decisions on behalf of the event, or are you making it on behalf of what is best for what Matt Rhule would want just in a vacuum?
Pretty interesting, Jack, because last year there was, I think when the announcement was made about the Husker games, we almost did like a eulogy of spring games. Like, those are a thing of the past, folks. R.I.P. Yes. Remember spring games? And then everybody hated the Husker games. And immediately now it's like, never mind, we're going back to that. Like, that's pretty interesting that is the case.
I'm surprised that, like, but what they said was not, hey, we love the concept of the Husker games for the fans, and that's why we want to do it. They said they had reasons why they don't want a spring game, use an extra practice, risk of injury, just not as productive. Like, are those not things anymore? Do you need, are you that, or do you just, or is it to placate some of the fans who really want a spring game, or they want the revenue? I don't know. I would say just do what you think is best for the program. Because last year I said, man, I'm not going to lose sleep over the spring game, not being around.
Some people will. Jack, do you think, could there be like a reason behind it that they didn't like what it actually did for the team? And we didn't hear about any of that, but that they left it. And he was like, you know what? This wasn't good for us.
Maybe. It's odd to hear that. I don't know why that would be the case, but that's the reason that would make most sense, that you would go back to this after what you said, because I just don't think they would for the fan. I mean, they have been making decisions that have been unpopular with the fans.
Sure. Yeah.
Volleyball reseeding, right? They haven't been that's been wildly unpopular. And they're about to do it with football, and that's going to be
when the football stuff happens, people are going to be pissed about that too. Yeah.
Like, making decisions that might be unpopular is not something that they've been unwilling to do. And so why it's a real change. It's a real
Adam
change.
Says no late portal, so Rhule isn't afraid of players getting poached. Bruce says does no more post spring portal play into them having a game? Point.
Yeah, he said that. I remember.
Jack, remember in December last month in the lead up to the bowl game, like Rhule got a question of like, hey, who stood out to you so far? And he was like, I'm not going to answer that question because I don't want anybody to try to poach the players.
I kind of, I know. I kind of rolled my eyes though. Like, okay, look, they're going to do it whether there's a spring game or not. The spring game would not have changed. What they've got film on that, and that's the thing. I thought that was kind of a, I don't know. I didn't put much stock in that as a real reason, but it could be wrong.
I think a lot of those coaches are paranoid. Speaking of the portal, how about the fact that Nebraska has seemingly gotten to this point, and I mean, it's done now. You can't enter it. They're going to be able to keep all those players. I know we've kind of hit on this at times over the last few weeks, but all of the receivers are staying. And on the other end of the spectrum, I can't believe that it seems like this is what they're actually going to do at running back, and that the Marty Brown stuff doesn't seem like anything is going to be there. And thus, the world that we will be living in moving into next year is the running back room that they currently have right now with Mekhi Nelson and Quentin Ives and company. I'm stunned that in the good and the bad that this ended up being the case for Nebraska.
The running back thing is so weird.
It's odd.
But do you remember at the beginning, not recently, a month ago, as soon as the bowl game was over, there seemed to be some people who often know what's going on in the background, some media people who are kind of saying things like, well, they're set with what they have. They can go with what they have.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like they just, if you follow the typical path on those things, you know, how the information travels, it almost sounds like that was decided not recently because they couldn't get anyone, but that was really the plan. I don't know that for sure, but is that kind of your sense that that's been the plan? It's not, and they just didn't execute?
Maybe. I mean, if you take him at his word, this is what they want to do at running back, which is flabbergasting to me. I'll say this: there have been a little pushback. We had Severe on our show a few weeks ago, and he pushed back a little bit on that Monday show with like, "Are you sure like that this running back room is going to be as bad as you think it is?" And of course, I'm not sure, but
it may not be. But why risk it?
Why risk it exactly? So
you don't do that at any other position. It's not that you are guaranteeing that. No one is saying that, by the way. No one is saying. Mike Schaefer is not saying that. None of us are. I don't think any of us are saying.
It's just putting them in a worse spot.
It's there. No one's saying there's zero chance it works, but there would have to be kind of somebody's going to have a role they've never even been close to having before, and then excel at it. Let alone two people doing that, and there's not that many bodies even that are legitimate candidates to take that spot. Even if you still had, I mean, let me say this. Let's say Emmett Johnson stayed. I still think they probably should have went and got someone.
Well, Jack, that's the thing. Like, after last season, there was this kind of revisionist history a little bit of like, oh, man, not everybody liked Emmett Johnson, which I would say wrong. First of all, check the receipts from the I-80 Club. But the thing that you and I wanted was not they need another running back to beat Emmett Johnson. We just wanted a little bit more depth in the room so they didn't have to be relying on him. Because if there was one thing that I know I will say I did miss about it, well, first of all, I didn't see 1,800 all-purpose yards in him being an All-American. I did think he would be a 1,000-yard rusher. The thing that I worried about, though, was durability. And are we sure he can make it through a 12-game season carrying the ball? Remember, I wanted 20 and a half touches. That's what I wanted per game. He actually exceeded that number. And he had, 80-something percent of the running back carries over the course of the whole season. My concern was not, is he good enough? It's, can he stay healthy? So I'm with you. If he comes back, I'm wondering the same thing. Like, wow, you're going to try to run that back with him again? Like, don't you want a little bit of rest for him over the course of the season?
And I would have felt different about that if they used one of the guys as a true number two. They never did. They really did. We didn't see, here and there you got a couple of Mosey carries, here and there, the blowouts they played, but Ives didn't play for 3 months or whatever it was.
Yeah, basically it was after the non-conference. We didn't see him until the bowl game.
Mekhi Nelson, and great, they've seen all these guys in practice, but how can you blame people who are only watching games who are saying, okay, like we don't even know if these guys are, aside from a good couple of drives against Utah, which was encouraging, we don't even know like what these guys are. Are they Big Ten level running backs? I I guess they think so. But if they think so now, why didn't they think so last year?
Yeah.
Enough
Yeah.
to take some of the load off of Emmett, because he obviously could have used that more than he got it, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's
Jason
not
says Nebraska was a dirty hit on EJ away from 4-8. Yeah. And like there was a comment a couple minutes ago from D'Lo. He says running back and defensive line are not important in the Big Ten. Even if it's not bad, the way they got here is criminal. I think my concern is I think they wanted more on the defensive line. They were unable to get it. I don't understand the running back stuff. So like in a way,
right.
If the defensive line sucks again, I will be a tiny bit more forgiving because it's like they tried, it just didn't work. But if the running back room is as bad as I think it could be, I will not be forgiving on them at all because they will be so predictable.
No one was saying on December 29th that, well, Nebraska might be staying with this D-line room. This might be but they were saying that about the running back room. And so that illustrates the difference that you're trying to allude to there, I think.
Yeah, Big Red Easy says so many scratch your head decisions from this staff. Yeah, it certainly comes across that way.
Yeah, but I will say this too. That one is just inexplicable to me. I can't fathom it. I don't understand that. I hope I am dead wrong, and but for it to be a success, Josh, with just those guys that you've got, don't almost two of them have to really outperform what you've seen, like have like really impressive out of nowhere 2026s? Don't you think?
Yeah.
You have to.
And what does that look like? Do you have a number
one.
Yeah, both of them. At least, or two of the three. What does that look like? Probably not 1,000 yards, but like what, 700-800? Like would have to be at that level.
It's just I can see how everything else happened, why it happened. You don't get who you're looking for. I would love to know the backstory on what's happening here, because I can't hardly believe that's the plan, especially if there were, again, unless there were no dollars for it. But that doesn't even make sense either, does it?
Well, there was a comment about that, about did they run out of money? And I do think that has played a part in this. I do not think that they ended up having the cash that they wanted, because here would be my informed speculation, and you and I will be doing a bonus pod next week, and I'm going to expand on this a little bit more when we're behind the paywall. But I wonder if the price of the brick went up just across the board, which is unsurprising, right? Like the price of everybody is always more expensive. Carson Beck was a $4 million quarterback last year, and Brendan Sorsby was even more than that this year. You know, like that's just how things work in college football. And so I just wonder if the players cost more money than they expected them to, which is wild if that was the plan, and it curtailed their efforts at landing some people.
Yeah. All that said, what was the position that we, outside of quarterback, that we were like, oh man, these guys are so hard to get, they're going to be expensive? Offensive line. And Nebraska, that was their shining star of the transfer portal.
It really is. If you want to hold up any good thing about the transfer portal, it's keeping your players, because they kept a lot of dudes, and it's offensive line. And I guess Calandria, depending on how you feel about him.
100%.
Certainly the process of Calandria with having to turn around like a day after losing a guy like that, I will give them their flowers for how that unfolded. Let's just say it's good.
What I'm saying, Josh, is they didn't operate like they were on a tight budget anywhere else necessarily. I didn't think, especially even adding like a Quasi Gilmore, and might be a great add too. But whatever he cost, if you could have got a running back at that price, whatever that is, and I don't know what that gets you at running back. It might be a MAC running back, a starting MAC running back. I don't know. But I think just roster-wise, that would be the place I would use it instead of adding another wide receiver. If you've got Hunter, and if you've got Barney, and if you've got Cortez Mills, and if you've got
Clark, you got those young guys.
You got Clark, and you've got Smith, and you've got Carter Nelson, and you've got what's his name? Stick, they called him. They got him coming. Janiron Bonner coming back too. Like,
yeah, Caleb
why
Henry
are we adding to that room?
Yes, he says Quasi Gilmore. Why not another lineman? It's so interesting. In the NFL draft, you're in the NFL draft, right? You'll be there at pick 12, and sometimes pick 12. Whoa, there is a player that is really, really good, but it's not at a position of need. And so you're like, screw it, we're going to take the player because he's really good, and we'll figure it out elsewhere. Now, I don't want to compare Quasi Gilmore to a 12th overall pick, But it is odd where it's like, I guess I will ask this: do they need him? Like, because I'm happy they got Isaiah Hunter and Ja'Cory Barney back, and then you just mentioned 4 guys in the wide receiver room where it's like, if they're worth their salt, they should. If Keel Shorts is worth his salt, like they should be developing those guys, and then get a running back instead.
Who do you what group of guys who don't have a ton of experience do you have more confidence in? Cortez Mills, Clark, Smith, or the running backs?
Yeah, it's absolutely the wide receivers.
And that's
maybe
the
that's
second
unfair,
line
but
of
it's absolutely the wide receivers. Yes, for sure. So,
for
like,
sure
look, maybe we'll be wrong, and maybe Gilmer will be awesome, and like finally one of those transfers that gets like 900 yards.
That's a luxury.
Like, good job, yeah, but it would be.
That's a luxury, though. That's a luxury purchase. Use that money. So that's why I just don't buy that it's a money thing either, because I think you find someone if you've got that ability, because no one would have said, I don't think, if they went with the just stood pat at wide receiver, I don't think any of us would have been saying, boy, I really think they needed to add another wide receiver. We just all thought there'd be wide receivers leaving. And that
was the thing. Yeah, that was a move, and D'Lo just said it. When they signed him, I was convinced at least 2 receivers were leaving. I can't believe it. Caleb Henry, wide receiver, has the most pure talent returning of any position. That's the spot I would have looked to add a transfer the least. Seriously, if you would have told me however long ago, a month ago, hey, they're going to add a player from UCLA at the wide receiver position, I'd say, makes a ton of sense because I think that they're losing guys. A month later, they kept everybody and they added. So it's just kind of
Let me even add this on top of it, Josh. They had a running back, haven't been playing running back, but Kenneth Williams has made his hay as a returner so far. He's looked good as a returner. I don't know what he would look like as a running back, but I sure wouldn't mind him being in that room at this point, given that he's shown that he can be a returner. And they let him get away, and maybe he was leaving no matter what. He might have wanted to get back to Detroit. I know he's got a lot of stuff going on, so maybe they didn't have a shot at that.
Yeah.
But like, you also in that position, you did have a guy leave, unlike wide receiver.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I don't know. We'll see. I just every day, Jack, I've kind of been like, all right, maybe this is the day we find out about Marty Brown, and it's Saturday, and the Natty was 5 days ago, and so I would say, I mean, I don't want to guarantee anything, but it seems like it's done, and it's not going to happen, right?
Has he entered the portal even? I haven't heard.
If he has this morning, I have missed it, but otherwise it's been
okay.
It's been more of the same. Yeah.
All the guys in the know who I perceive as being in the know act like that's not happening. So I assume it's not. I hope I'm wrong.
Pretty wild.
I hope I'm wrong because that would be a bow.
Yeah. Jack, we did it. We made it an hour. How are your legs?
It's not moving them. I put one of them straight and the blood flow is a little better, but no, it worked. It actually worked. All things considered, assuming I sound okay and look okay. I can't hear or see myself. Hopefully it goes okay. I'll have a better, more prepared setup for this afternoon, but thank you for everyone for bearing with me. It's been flying by the seat of my pants here for a couple of weeks, but it was good.
There was
enjoyed the conversation though.
Comments earlier, Alex wrote Jacked Mitchell, which I like. Jack, you're looking great, man. I just want to give you a shout out. Shout out to Jack. Connor said, go for a run on a treadmill. Multiple people pointed out that could be a bonus pod. If you want to watch Jack work out, that's a bonus pod. So maybe later on after Nebraska or on the Nebraska Ball Hour, maybe you could do a little working out.
When I was figuring out where in here I was going to set up, I thought for a moment, I was like, wow, maybe that treadmill stand will be perfect to just get my face and I'll just stand on the treadmill when I do it.
Hey, you did that. What was it during COVID when you did the walk of shame and I joined you on the treadmill?
I walked on the treadmill. I walked for like 12 hours straight. That was crazy during COVID.
That is disgusting. Absolutely.
Yeah, I might get a workout in here. I got a TV up here. Maybe I'll turn the game on. I'll get these. Looks like I got about a 15-pound here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I can do that about 50 times. There we go.
I can barely lift my right arm. I did so many. All right, Jack. Well, enjoy the game. We hope to see everybody back here on the YouTube channel in about 3 hours. Jack is when the game will come to an end.
About 1:30.
We'll see how muscly Jack is by that point in time because he will not stop lifting weights until the game is over. So we'd love to see you following Nebraska and Minnesota. Can the Cornhuskers move to 20-0 on the season? We will find out. That game starts in about a half hour, and then post-game, 15 to 30 minutes afterwards. Again, turn on the notifications. Don't hit your face. Turn on the notifications and join Jack and Caleb for that one. All right, Jack, we did it. Have a great game. Enjoy the game. We'll talk to you later.
Go be great.
All right, thanks everyone for watching. Like and subscribe. Bye-bye.